It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, and yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in. It's a Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker. We'll always love to hear from you. Also, you can be a part of the show by texting in to the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321. If you want to chime in, be a part of the program. And, full 2 hours today here on the Full Court Press. Yesterday and on Monday, we had shortened shows, but because we had Utah Hockey Club, but their season is now done. Utah Jazz are now done. Utah Hockey Club is now done. So it's, been that time of year where those professional sports that we follow, some of our local teams are winding down. But still things to discuss and talk about. We got some Utah State news today. We'll get into more transfer portal stuff. We've got also updates on what's going on with our local high school sports in Region 11 with what are the latest RPI rankings and standings here with a few weeks to go for the end of the regular season is here. So give you some updates on a lot of those different things. But one of the things we want to lead with today is that Utah State University, their athletics program, held an awards banquet here recently, and it was a way to look back on the year that was, looking at the different educational achievements, but also athletic achievements over the course of this last year. And we know there are some sports that are still going on right now, but it was a pretty cool event that they put together to kind of recognize some of the top athletes and what they do, but also some of the top moments of the past year as well. And proves to be kind of a fun way to look back on the year that has been in 2024-2025 for Utah State athletics. And so if there was a moment that stood out to you that you thought should be in the running for one of the top moments or top teams, 435-339-0321. Let us know on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line. But, some of these were recognitions for work they did in the classroom, which is always appropriate. The Joe E. Whitesides Award winner went to Emma Thornley for women's cross country and track and field. And from my understanding, it's the best academics award in athletics.
Didn't this used to be called like the Whitesides Banquet?
Yeah, it used to be called the Whitesides Dinner or the Whitesides Banquet. But now they're calling it the Sagebrush. And I got to get it right. The Sagebrush Awards Banquet.
Did Whiteside not re-up his donation or something?
I don't know, but it's more than just academics. And the Whitesides usually would highlight some of that, like individuals, but also teams who had the best GPAs and things like that. And there are still some elements of that here, but there are also awards for the just general best student athlete of the year, male or female, the rookie of the year, the international player, things like that. So they had a variety of different awards, individual performances of the year for men and women. So it's a pretty interesting collection of different things that were recognized this last Monday at Utah State.
Yeah, actually, you got your overall players of the year, men's and women's. Fittingly, Logan Hammer for the men, just All-American. Hard to beat that. Don't know who else you'd be giving it to there. And then for women's sports, probably a couple of really good contenders because you got Brianna Brooks, but Kaylin Richens for soccer, Defensive Player of the Year, one of the stars of that team. Certainly a deserving winner there. And yeah, just again, there's a lot of, I know there's some interesting awards. There's ones where like we're not going to have any insight on these, but things like Tutor of the Year, Mentor of the Year, which are they mostly the same thing? Kind of, not necessarily, but I guess kind of. Where's the distinction between a mentor? I mean, there is one technically, but like, what classifies you as a mentor? Is that like a specific position, mentor? But yeah, Zach Schwager, I don't know if I'm saying that right. The Tutor of the Year, Jake Oakleberry, the Mentor of the Year.
Comeback Player of the Year, Kaylee Erickson for softball won that. Some of the others who were recognized in that category, Ike Larson for football, Marshall Rasmussen in men's track and field, Keanu Rigby for men's tennis, and Ciela Tapia Cruz for women's tennis. So that was, it wasn't specific to male or female there, just the overall comeback player of the year for the university. But as far as like performance of the year,
yeah, I should mention I got the women's player of the year. I was reading the wrong section of this. The women's player of the year was Grace Matej, the softball player, not Caitlin Richens. She was in the running for the female student athlete of the year. Logan Hammer was the male student athlete of the year. But yeah, Grace. I was looking at the Robbins Award. Or is the Robbins Award a different Player of the Year award?
I think it is.
Is it? So did they have multiple Athlete of the Year awards? Well, let's see. So they have So the Robbins Award is the male and female student athlete of the year, and then later on in their list they've got the female student athlete of the year, where they mentioned Grace Matej as the winner, and Logan Hammers is the winner, and the male student athlete of the year. So now I'm all confused. I thought I had it right, then I thought I had it wrong. Now I'm not so sure anymore.
I'm not sure either.
Wasn't at the banquet. I couldn't make it.
Yeah, we weren't there. But we can highlight some of the award winners and some of the things that kind of let us kind of think back on the season. Most improved academic team. That's always kind of nice to highlight. The team with more than 20 members, it was football. And the team with less than 20 members was men's basketball. So both of those improved the most with their academics.
How many other teams have more than 20? It's basically football and track/cross country. That's basically it.
Probably.
Like, because tennis doesn't, golf doesn't. They only have like 8. So I mean, it's like you're getting gold, silver, or bronze pretty much no matter what. But yeah, football making big improvements academic. I know that was something that got talked about with Blake Anderson's departure, as there was a fight over just how good the football team was doing academically. Regardless, it's good to see them obviously making big improvement. And obviously football and men's basketball can tend to be the programs that get targeted for the stereotype of not having as good of, students. Because those are the ones, obviously they may be looking towards the pros. There's that kind of stereotype. So it's good to see improvement from those where there can be that negative stereotype about academics in those two programs. I'm speaking generally for all of sports, not Utah State specifically.
Right. Yeah. Let's see. Let's highlight a few others. The female rookie of the year, Abby Scott from track and field. The male rookie of the year went to Enrique Karg from golf. Female international athlete of the year, Christina Vlahovic from track and field. And then Ian Martinez for Utah State men's basketball. He was the male international athlete of the year. I already mentioned the transfers, and then and the comeback player of the year, the female performance of the year. This went to Carly Limoncenero from softball. She pitched a complete game in USU's win over number 19 Baylor, the first team win over a top 20 opponent since 2010. She pitched all 7 innings, faced 34 batters, allowed just 2 extra base hits to go along with 2 strikeouts. So her individual performance was the female performance of the year for Utah State.
Yeah, and that win over Baylor shows up a little bit later in these awards as well. But there are some pretty good some pretty good competition. Obviously, what Carly did in that game is fantastic, where they were able to lock down that win over a ranked team. But you also had Kaylee Chambers, who had a really big performance in the Mountain West Championship game as the Aggies secured a spot in the NCAA tournament. Elise Livingston, who, another like Rookie of the Year candidate, where she went off to help the Aggies get a win over San Jose State. So some pretty good contenders for Performance of the Year. But yeah, it's hard when you're the pitcher in a win over a ranked team. Hard to pass that up.
For the men, it went to Sergei Miko Fenolar with men's tennis. He won the 67th annual Men's Intercollegiate Championship singles title with a straight set win over top-seeded player, securing entry into an ATP event. So that's a pretty high honor and recognition for a Utah State individual. Some of the other candidates, Bryson Barnes, with his performance in the Aggie win over San Diego State. He accounted for 4 touchdowns that day, 332 yards on total offense, and coming off the bench, and helped lead the Aggies to a win that day. Other nominees: Mason Falslev in his 27-point, 9-rebound, 9-assist, 3-steal performance in USU's 88-67 home win over South Florida. Logan Hammer, men's track and field, he won the Mountain West outdoor title in the pole vault. And then Cameron Todd from men's cross country, who earned an All-American honor, placing 25th at the NCAA cross country championships. So tough to choose from those great candidates right there in the male performance of the year.
I just don't have a grasp on the significance of a lot of the stuff that happens in the tennis community, but it must have been an absolute big deal to win that singles title for Fenolar. Because, you look at a lot of these others, Bryson Barnes, Davey O'Brien, National Quarterback of the Week, Mason Falslev, Oscar Robertson, National Player of the Week, Logan Hammer, Mountain West winning title performance.
Broke a school record.
Yeah, broke a school record. Cameron Todd, All-American honors. Like, those are all nationally relevant stuff. But again, my lack of depth and knowledge of the tennis world means that it must have been really dang good for that to be able to top some of these other fantastic individual performances from a lot of these athletes. That most of these will be more well known by Aggie fans, but clearly this Sergey needs that recognition because it's something that topped all of these other things, these national recognitions that guys like Barnes and Falslev got.
The moment of the year for the entire university, even the athletics, went to gymnastics, who won the first ever Mountain West Championship, 7th conference title all time. They defeated Boise State along with Air Force and San Jose. Opportunity to advance as a team to the NCAA regionals, but great performance for Utah State gymnastics, winning the Mountain West Conference.
Yeah, and I don't know, I obviously love what gymnastics was able to do, and getting to, and obviously that helped them get to regionals. Getting that champion, or at least was part of that journey. For me, one of the other nominees was probably my favorite moment of the year for Utah State sports, and that was soccer team hosting an NCAA tournament game. I know the game didn't end up finishing super well. They ended up losing that game in a shootout, but to me, that was a fantastic moment for the university. There's some other good ones as well. Ian Martinez's, the 4-point play. That's one where that was just insane.
Unreal.
Those are probably my top 3. The Ian Martinez hosting the soccer, hosting the NCAA tournament game, gymnastics, because it wasn't just winning the Mountain West Championship, it was also getting the team to regionals. I think those two combined were a big moment. But obviously there's a lot of really fun moments and there's even a football moment too, where you got a game-winning field goal. So walk-off field goal.
Yeah, that was Tanner Cragen's 40-yarder that helped Utah State beat Wyoming. First walk-off field goal since 2019 for the Aggies. Others were men's cross country. They finished 22nd at the NCAA National Championships. Its 5th appearance in program history. Golf finished second, the team score of 5 under at the Air Force Invitational. Aggies were placed in the top 20. Logan Hammer won the pole vault competition at the USU hosted Roman Ruiz Speed and Power Meet in the Nelson Fieldhouse. Again, that's where he broke his own school record, broke the Nelson Fieldhouse facility record. And then again, Sergey Miko Fenolar, men's tennis, when he won that straight set win over the top seeded player and securing an entry into an ATP event. But what about upset of the year? Only 3 nominees here, or at least not necessarily nominees, but 3 finalists in this. But for Utah State, the upset of the year, we've already mentioned it, happened earlier. Individual was recognized for this, but now the whole team getting recognition. Utah State's defeat over number 19 Baylor in College Station, Texas for softball. That 6-4 win by the Aggies, getting that monumental win, the team's first over a top 20 opponent since 2010.
Yeah, and I think this one a very deserving upset of the year because the other 2 nominees, you have Utah State beating San Diego State. The Aztecs are ranked number 20. You get that buzzer beater. And that was huge in that there's beating San Diego State in Viejas for I think it was the second time ever and first time since forever. That was huge, but even then I don't think quite, because we knew Utah State could very well beat San Diego State. That wasn't a super unsurprising win, given the context of the season at that point. The other nominee, Utah State defeating BYU, who's ranked 16th. The Aggies have beaten BYU 2 or 3 times in the last few years.
In soccer.
That obviously was an upset, but we know where the soccer program is at. And I think at that point, the Aggies were unranked. They would end up going, did they get, I can't remember if they got into the top 10 or not, but they were in the top 15 in the rankings. So it was only an, at the time, upset. The Aggies, I think, would go on to finish ranked higher than BYU. So softball getting that win over Baylor, first ranked win over ranked top 20 opponent since 2010. Just that definitely, I think, is the upset of the year.
There were some other recognitions handed out, like the Coach of the Year. The finalists, Manny Martins, Jared Calhoun, Artie Golden, and Kristen White. And the coach that came away with the hardware, Manny Martins with Utah State Soccer.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that. Maybe Jared Calhoun, but Manny Martins won a conference tournament title, got the team to host an NCAA tournament game, got the team ranked, one of the highest rankings they'd ever been, if not the highest ranking they'd ever had. Best team, sports team in the university, in my opinion. And so, and the job he's done as a coach and as a program manager in general, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, they're great individual recognitions by some of these other coaches, but I'm with you, just considering what was accomplished there and what has been happening with Utah State women's soccer. It's good to totally agree with getting that recognition to Manny Martins. Team of the year, soccer, men's basketball, men's cross country, and gymnastics. It's the teams that were coached by those people, those coaches.
Basically,
that were recognized.
I'm sensing a trend.
Yeah, those teams were also in the running for team of the year. And just like the coach, women's soccer getting the recognition.
Yeah, and just there can't be any debate. There's maybe some debate with coach of the year because you had Kristen White, who's rebuilt the program and getting the team to regionals, and Jared Calhoun being a first-year coach and getting the team to contend for a Mountain West title. I don't even think there's a debate for team of the year. Passing on my potential ignorance for men's cross country aside, where maybe they could have more of a debate there if I'm just ignorant of something. But soccer just being having an all-time season and being as dominant as they were, there's just no question to me that they were the best team this year.
And then Team Service Award went to women's tennis. Gymnastics and soccer were also finalists for that, but women's tennis getting recognized for their service as a team.
And deservedly so.
Yeah, so the Sagebrush Awards handed out on Monday. They had a big ceremony. A lot of different teams and individuals and coaches recognized, but also support staff, the tutors, the assistants, the people who they help out behind the scenes who don't really get a lot of recognition normally. They got some recognition Monday night, which is cool, which is great that they do that and give them an opportunity to shine too.
Yeah. By the way, some help from the text line 3714 noting the Robbins Award goes to high-achieving USU students all over campus who have been awarded for decades, ever since the death of a student body president named Robbins. The Robbins Awards event happened a couple weeks ago on campus, and that's when the Robbins Award Athletes of the Year were named. So yes, it is separate from the Sagebrush Awards.
So the Robbins Award is a Utah State thing, but there were some Utah State athletes who were also Robbins Award recipients.
Okay.
If I'm following that right, 3714, correct me if I'm wrong. And then 8968 texting in. The night the Aggies won their 10th basketball game in a row to start the season. I know the schedule was not really strong, but it was as strong as most.
Yeah, certainly a great start for the team. Obviously, that early portion of the season was a huge moment because, it was big for the basketball program to kind of have that relief that, they'd hit on another, big time hire as a coach. Like, okay, we got another coach who's going to lead this team to good things. But yeah, I think in the end, I think I was talking about the moment of the year. I think. I mean, even then, I think that's surpassed by a few of these others, but certainly a good moment in athletics. Yeah,
but these kind of events, these award ceremonies, they do create opportunities for us to look back on the year that was. If there were any other moments that stood out to you for Utah State athletics over this past year that maybe should be considered, then let us know on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321. Quick timeout. We'll be right back here on the Full Court Press.
When grid failures and severe weather cause power outages, your business might take a hit, or at home, you could lose your refrigerated food storage. Generac Standby Power Solutions help ensure an uninterrupted power supply. Generac is the #1 brand of standby generators. Get yours today from Golden Spike Electric, your trusted source for safety and security. Golden Spike Electric, powering your peace of mind. Online at gsegenerators.com or call 257-3016. They also service other models.
Les Olson IT is your source for top quality technology. We carry the latest desktop and laptop PCs in stock, configured to your specific needs, and backed by our award-winning support team. And if your business demands high-performance hardware, we offer custom-built computers that can tackle any task. We also offer great computer accessories like monitors, keyboards, speakers, Fujitsu document scanners, and more. Get a quote today.
Les Olson IT.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. Let's celebrate teachers. Is there any group that deserves good sleep more than good teachers? Let's reward them by giving away $10,000 worth of Purple and Tempur-Pedic mattresses and pillows and gel seats. Go to My Mattress Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter and leave a comment about who you're nominating and why, how they inspired you or how they helped you love that subject in school. Nominations are open now through April 20th. Isn't it time for teachers to sleep exceptionally? Only at My Mattress.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. Giving some recognition to Utah State teams and student athletes and others from the Sagebrush Awards banquet that took place on Monday night, which they say it honors excellence in athletics, education, service, and leadership over this past academic athletic year. And certainly a number of them recognized for doing really, really well in the classroom. And then, some comeback moments, some great moments individually, great moments as teams. and coaches and support staff as well getting some recognition.
Yeah. 8968 on the Young Power Sports text line noting, except for football, in most cases, it was mostly a great year for Aggie sports.
Yeah, really. Soccer had a great season. Softball's had some great moments. Women's basketball, not so much. We can overlook that.
Women's basketball maybe on par with the football team there.
Trying to get things jump started, but we hope it's hard to go any further down than they've gone. But
yeah, they look at the men's sports. Basketball did good. Cross country, golf. I think they're doing okay. I haven't checked up on them in a minute.
Men's some tennis. Great individual performances in track and field.
Yeah, track and field are doing good. Again, women's sports, gymnastics, soccer, they're doing all right in softball, track and field, volleyball.
I know volleyball was a little bit of a shaky start. There was a lot expected of them, but it was a team that had a lot of younger players, and they struggled a little bit early, but as the season went on, they got better and better. And so it was fun to watch them improve week to week.
Well, the shaky start, although even then, a lot of that was the expectations of having gone 3 straight years, bringing home Mountain West Championship hardware.
Yes.
So it was really only a shaky start by those standards. But they ended up living up more to what this program has been under Rob Nielsen later in the year.
Yeah. 435-339-0321 if you want to chime in. 5338, any Aggie football players into the transfer portal yet?
Funny you should bring that up. We were about to get to talking about that.
It's next on our topic sheet.
Yeah, it's literally on our topic sheet for this segment. A couple who have entered the portal so far, at least officially online that I've been able to track down so far. Kadiyon Sweat and Jack Hestera. Kadiyon being I actually forgot to double check this, but I believe he was a defensive player.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure he was a safety or a defensive back. So. Didn't do anything last year. He was, or the last 2 years, he redshirted in 2023 and then didn't appear in any games last year. So hadn't been, doing anything at Utah State. So naturally, and he stuck around for the spring portal, see if he gets something going with the new coach, but obviously not working out for him. So ultimately moving on. So not too much of a surprising portal entry, just likely looking for a better situation. Jack Hestera, the other one, though, obviously that's one where he probably could have been, one of the key wide receivers this year. Although the Aggies had brought in some decent wide receiver transfers, so it's possible that he's moving on because they feel like maybe he can get more, or it's also possible that he could move on because maybe he got beat out in spring practice. Either of those could be true, but it is a little disappointing because I saw a lot of potential with Jack Hestera as a really good slot receiver.
Yeah, I agree. I have a hard time believing that he would be players outperforming him necessarily based on what I know of the wide receiver room, which again I admit is somewhat limited this spring because we can't really see a lot. But yeah, that one is disappointing. That's too bad because with like you, I thought that he showed potential and it was somebody who was out there trying to make some things happen and be a pretty solid and reliable target. So, but again, just because they're in the portal doesn't necessarily mean they're gone. But I don't know about Coach Bronco Mendenhall's stance. For Blake Anderson, it was if you put your name in the portal, you're gone. And you're not coming back. Though there were cases of them recruiting players from their own team who were in the portal to come back and stick around. So
yeah, they had
been a little he was back and forth on that.
Yeah, they had, Devin Tompkins was kind of like that one exception, but then I think Brazil Faison, I'm pretty sure didn't he go in the portal and then come back before he ended it? Because ultimately he left this year for South Carolina, but I'm pretty sure he went in the portal and then came back. So that, you go in the portal and you're done stuff apparently didn't hold.
Yeah. But I'm not sure about Bronco's stance on that as of yet.
Yeah, who knows? But
I'll try to ask him that on Saturday.
Yeah, but even then it's 95% of the time these guys are gone. So if they enter the portal, assume they're gone. That's, I know there's always a possibility they come back, but just assume they're gone.
Yeah, today's state of college athletics. But, I mean, the portal opened today.
Yeah, today. And like in the first 12 hours, there were already 600 players in the portal.
Oh,
the
my
one
goodness.
I saw. Mind you, that report I saw was from 6 hours ago. So who knows what's happened in the next half dozen hours. There could be another 600 players that have entered the portal. I don't think it'll be quite as extreme as the winter window because that one's where, everybody's getting going. But this one could end up being pretty crazy. I kind of hoping that we don't see too many departures for Utah State, but there's going to be some. And some of those guys are going to be players who are probably expected to take big roles, like Jack Hestera was very likely going to end up as one of the top 3 or 4 receivers, at least, if not one of the top, if not the top receiver. We saw his potential in a couple of games last year. There's going to be a bunch of those who are guys that probably weren't expected, and that's kind of what the spring portal is best at, is guys who couldn't find a role in spring ball and maybe can find something if they transfer down to Division II or something like that. But it's also poaching season, because that's the other part of the spring portal. It's guys who weren't going to have a role, and it's also poaching season. The Aggies have done their darndest. They have shut the doors and turned off all the porch lights and everything they can to try and pretend that nothing's going on here. You don't want to know anything of what's going on here. You don't want any of our players. We're not going to tell you anyway. They're doing everything they can to make sure they don't get players poached. And we're about to find out if it's worth anything.
Yeah. We'll see. I tried to ask Mario Acatelli if he felt like the team would need to be active in any particular areas in the portal, and he wisely just kind of brushed it off. We'll just have to see what happens. But that will be interesting to watch how Bronco Mendenhall and this coaching staff, how they handle it, how much this team holds together, or if they feel like, seeing things on film is one thing, but now we've gone through practices with these guys. That's something else entirely. And so now we know there are specific areas we need to go try to find help to bolster up various positions. And I can't tell you what those are right now.
Yeah, I mean, they went into camp knowing that there were going to be some of those. I think I asked Bronco or I think it was the offensive coordinator, about, are there going to be areas where you feel like you need to add? And of course there will be. They acknowledge there's going to be players that they're position groups that they're going to want to add because they didn't quite manage to get all the depth and the amount of talent that they wanted from the winter window. And we'll find out, based on which positions they maybe take the most. They seemed to focus a lot on defense and kind of the defensive backfield. And I think that's where they'll probably end up feeling the safest, is in their defensive backfield. They've got experience, and they brought in a lot of transfers in that defensive backfield. They brought in a lot of guys, or at least a decent number of edge rushers and defensive tackles. And some and also wide receivers. So like you got your defensive backfield, you got your wide receivers. I think those are the two areas where they're probably feeling the most comfortable in the talent they have. And after that, it's like, okay, do they need to take a running back, or do they like what they have in terms of depth there? Do they like what they have on the offensive line, or are they going to, I feel like they need to add 1 or 2 offensive linemen based on what I see from this group. Do they need to add an edge rusher? I don't know if they really have great edge rushers on this team. They didn't add really any great ones in the portal. And heck, they hardly added any edge rushers in the portal. So, and they also need good interior defensive linemen. You got basically one starter that you can probably count on. And I suddenly forgot his name.
David Niguez?
Yeah, Niguez. You got him. And then, like, everywhere else in the defensive line is just this massive question mark. So I think you look at the defensive line, the offensive line, the running backs, maybe quarterback, but I feel like at this point it's just kind of too late to add a quarterback as a starter. So it's Bryson Barnes or Anthony Garcia. Like, it's one of those two, for better or worse.
CJ Tiller?
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. We haven't seen anything. And so it's hard to know like how they really perform. But I think they've got some depth at quarterback, unless there's a real game changer that the coaches feel is going to be better than what they have. But I'm with you. I don't think that should be an area of focus. Maybe another running back.
Yeah, that's one.
Maybe another wide receiver or tight end.
And I think they might struggle to find anybody who would be like a starting caliber player. I don't know if they're going to be able to reel in one of those. But adding depth at some of these positions is probably going to be the biggest thing. They may very well add a quarterback, mostly for depth. They might add a running back, maybe as a depth piece, maybe as a competitor to what they have at the top of their depth chart. A wide receiver, likely to replace Jack Hestera. Offensive line to go from, because with an offensive line, you want to go at least 7 deep, ideally 8 deep. Be able to have, at least one tackle and one interior offensive lineman to sub in, and ideally a third, where you have either another tackle or another interior offensive lineman, to give you 8 players that you can rotate in around the offensive line. I don't think they have 8 right now. So maybe add another there to give themselves more depth on the defensive line, because you got to have like 7 or 8 guys on the defensive line, multiple sets of pass rushers, multiple sets of defensive tackles. Do they need to add more at linebacker? I think they've added some decent pieces at linebacker, but maybe they want to add a little bit more. Again, pretty much the only room where I feel like they're good in terms of depth and talent is their defensive backfield. They've got a lot there. I think they're going to be okay there. But even then, maybe one of them leaves in the portal, because maybe one of them isn't as high on the depth chart as they want to be. So they may end up having to add another player there as well, again, to bolster depth. So it'll be an interesting portal season, just to see which positions they add the most, because that'll kind of be like a hint of where do they feel like maybe the weaknesses are, and then we'll try and see which. See if any of our guesses are right when fall comes around.
Yeah, 435-339-0321 if you want to chime in. 9315 with a couple of texts. I can already see a difference with players not being poached. Last year, spring portal guys had new home in less than an hour of the portal being open at places like BYU. Well, I mean, it's just open today, so don't jump to conclusions.
Yeah.
So far, there's only 2 guys that appear to be in there right now.
Yeah, I was saying there were guys who'd enter the portal, and within an hour of the portal opening, they'd already announced their commitment.
Yeah,
like that was that's blatant tampering.
Last year, it did have a weird feeling to it, but that was because of the year, like the fall season before. Blake and his coaching staff couldn't make up their mind on a lot of things. And that was unnecessary drama that played out throughout the year. And then they didn't really help themselves with some of the transfers that they brought in. So I wasn't too surprised with some of the things that happened. Certainly disappointed and frustrated by some things, but not really surprised. This year, it's just such a big question mark. It's a new coaching staff. It's a new way of doing things. But I won't be surprised if there are players from Utah State who do enter the portal, because for some of these guys, this is their first time to really decide, do I really want to go through the season with this coaching staff? Because these are not the guys that I originally signed up to be here with. Because in December, it might be one thing to like, okay, that's a new coaching staff and that sounds nice. They're not the guys who recruited me, but maybe I'll give them a chance. But now that you've gone through spring ball, you can really see what they're like. How do they really coach? What are the expectations that they're asking of you? And for some guys, this just isn't their thing. And so they might just put their names in the portal. So I don't know. But it's a shorter window in the spring, thank goodness. But did officially open today. And so far that we know of, only 2 guys in the portal.
Yeah, but I think in the end, we're going to see fewer players transfer. Last year, let me double check the number on last year. There were 14 players that transferred out. And I don't think we're going to get quite to that level. And like you look at the guys who transferred out last year, it was McKay Hillstead, Sir Mells, Pukesi Vakuta, Paul Fitzgerald, Cooper Laga, Will Schaefer, Devon Booth, Cliff Mosley, Al Ashford, John Worley. These are a bunch of guys. Anthony Switzer. Most of these guys were expected to be like starters,
significant players, contributors,
or back. I know McKay Hillstead and Cooper Laga, it's a little more complicated because it's quarterback, and they were, they kind of lost the job to Spencer Petras, but they lost several, 5 or 6 starting caliber 2 deep guys in the portal of those 14 who ended up leaving. And I don't think we're going to see that this year. We'll see a guy, Jack Hestera would probably fall into that category of like starting caliber 2 deep player. But I think you'll see more of a limit on those guys because they're not going to get poached as much. Because a guy like Paul Fitzgerald, he got poached by Utah. McKay Hillstead, he got poached by BYU. Devon Booth, got enticed away by more NIL. That's a lot less likely to happen for the Aggies this year.
There may be some reasons for that, and I'll get into that after this timeout, but still love to get your thoughts as well. 435-339-0321.
Do you have a fireplace or stove that isn't working right? Why wait until next winter to get it fixed? Get ahead of the game and get your fireplace or stove serviced now by Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They service everything from Quadra-Fire pellet stoves to heat and glow fireplaces. Get a 20% discount on your next service and labor when you mention this ad. Call 752-7272 or go to advancedfireplaceandstove.com. Advanced Fireplace and Stove, where comfort is their business.
DD Auto and Salvage has seen hundreds of you taking advantage of high metal prices for autos and other scrap metal. It's Earth Day this week, and DD Auto and Salvage is going to continue to do their very best to give the highest possible prices. If you have an automobile or scrap metal, let DD Auto and Salvage help clean it up. Call DD Auto and Salvage at 787-1204.
That's 787-1204 today.
Happy Earth Day, Cache Valley.
See store for details.
Now here's a concept. You earmark 1/3 of your profits to go back into the community, to local charities. Dex Imaging does that. My name is Anthony Wagner, and I'd like to share with you what I know about Dex, the company that acquired Valley Office Systems. Dex Imaging is committed to continuing quality customer service while raising the bar to become a strong community partner. Join us in creating the brightest image for tomorrow. Contact us at deximaging.com.
The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. Love to hear from you as well on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321. So maybe part of the reason why we didn't see as many players in the portal or getting poached off of last year's team is either the good players either graduated or there weren't that many good players, high-performing, high-level players. No, that's not entirely true because some of them decided to stay, and I know some had some offers. There were some who opted to stick around, but like Kean Sloan, he left. He's at NC State,
I think so,
something like that.
It took a long time to commit. He only committed like a week or so.
Yeah,
ago.
just recently. But the reason why I think last year saw more players, even in the spring, getting poached or deciding to leave. There were a good number of higher profile players on those teams than I think that we saw this last year. And those that were higher profile players this last year are those who have run out of eligibility or have graduated, but they're leaving as well. So it's not necessarily, I don't mean to say that as a knock against the players who are coming back. I'm just not sure that last year's roster had the same level of performers like some of the other rosters where some of those guys did leave and get lured away by other opportunities.
Yeah, there were a lot more guys who had, you can call them, use the term known quantities, or whatever term you want to use, because McKay Hillstead, he had a few starts under his belt. So Cooper Legault, obviously a couple of seasons. Paul Fitzgerald had some pretty decent numbers for a redshirt freshman
young player.
Devon Booth, obviously great numbers. Sean Dolak, of course, he was kind of an interesting situation. Anthony Switzer, obviously, fantastic several years. So a lot of those guys were, again, I call them known quantities. They're a lot easier to poach because you got a lot of film on them. You might have already had contact with them as a recruiter, because a lot of those guys had, a couple of those guys had maybe transferred once already in their career. So you might have recruited him in high school as well. So there's a lot of things that, teams that are looking for G5 guys to poach, those were the guys they might target because you have data for them. Part of why, we sit here, and every time we bring up Utah State football, we say we don't know. It's because, even the transfers, a lot of them are guys who don't have a whole lot of experience under their belt, especially at the Division I level. Most of the guys that do have a lot that we know about them, they tend to be New Mexico transfers. And our team's going to poach from a New Mexico team that went, 5-7 or whatever. I forget their final record. Probably not. Maybe they do, but probably not. So not only was last year's team obviously not very good, so you might be less inclined to poach from a team like that, but a lot of those guys left, and the guys they've brought in are guys who have very little experience. They're potential under the radar guys, unknown quantities. Since we talk about known quantities, these are unknown guys.
Yeah.
So poaching becomes a lot harder for those because, look at the guys who left Utah State. It's via the transfer portal. It's all the guys who had some level of experience. Teague Anderson, J.D. Drew, Vontae Dickerson, Grant Page, Tanner Cragen, Herschel Turner, Blaine Spires, Robert Briggs, Rasul Faison, Jaden Francois. Go down the list. It's all the guys who played a significant amount of time. That was most of the guys who left. And so there's not a whole lot of those players left that we know a whole lot about. So what's a team, what are BYU and Utah going to do? I'll be like, we don't know anybody on Utah State's roster, so we're not going to go after them for the most part.
Right. 9315 texting in, if you don't have a spring game, you can't have higher profile players exposed. They could be poached. And also hard for an agent to put their name out there if they can't see them in the spring without the player knowledge, like some or most bad agents do to drum up players worth more.
Oh, that's not what bad. You're a good agent if you drum up interest for your player.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is that
there's no film, there's no knowledge.
Yeah, if you're an agent that's reaching out to other teams and being like, hey, my guy might look to go in the portal. Well, what can you offer him in terms of NIL? And the teams turn to him and say, all right, what do you got? And he's like, he's really good, I promise. And
take my word.
If that's all you got, team's going to look the other way because they're going to go to what they know, either by lots of film, analytics, or if they had a connection to them recruiting wise, say look, I know this guy's good. If you have a coach, an assistant coach vouching for, hey, I know this guy's good. No, we don't have film, but I recruited him. I watched him a lot in high school. He's good. We can go get him. That could happen. But barring that, most of the guys in Utah State are less likely, and I have to say less likely to get poached because it can still happen.
Right. Yes.
Don't hang on to that and say nobody's getting poached. Nobody's going to end up leaving because that, having nobody leave, nobody get poached, nobody get enticed away for NIL, that's not a realistic expectation for a program like Utah State.
All right, another quick timeout here on the Full Court Press. Still time for you to chime in, 435-339-0321.
At Adams Wealth Advisors, they believe that successful wealth management is all about planning. And whether you've done a lot of planning or a little, Adams Wealth Advisors is here to help. If you're transitioning a business, searching for the most up-to-date tax strategies, need help managing investments, or need help with estate planning, Adams Wealth Advisors has your back. Visit adamswealthadvisors.com. That's adamswealthadvisors.com for more information or to schedule an appointment.
It's our 55th annual Spring Savings event this Saturday only. This is Jay with Daryl's Appliance. This Saturday, triple dip in savings. Get spring sale prices up to 40% off, plus pop a balloon for up to $100 extra off, and save even more with exclusive mail-in rebates. This Saturday only. Enter to win a KitchenAid mixer in-store only. Don't miss the one-day spring sale only at Daryl's Appliance, where service always comes first. Daryl's West on Airport Road. Listen for a live radio broadcast Saturday morning.
Disasters don't wait for a convenient time. When the unexpected strikes, call the trusted team at Blue Sky. Remember, Blue Sky is that same great ARS team you know and trust.
This is Tom with Blue Sky Restoration. When disaster strikes, whether it's a flood, fire, mold damage, or an unforeseen accident, Blue Sky will clean up, repair, and restore your home or business like it was before. No disaster is too big or too small. For all your restoration needs, you can trust our Blue Sky team.
Talking the sports you care about. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Hey, do you need new spark plugs and filters? Your locally owned Napa has got them to fit your car, your truck, even your lawnmower, four-wheeler, motorcycle, or side-by-side. And if you want things ready when you come in, you can buy it online. Pick it up in store at napaonline.com. Locally owned, Preston and Providence, Napa Auto Parts. So, 435-339-0321 if you want to chime in. But since we're talking transfers, for men's basketball, that portal is still open as well. And occasionally you still see players entering the portal at various schools. Utah State still has a few spots to be filled, but looking across the landscape of the Mountain West, what are some of the top portal players coming to Mountain West schools, Jason?
Yeah, so this is the time where we're seeing more and more commits as opposed to departures. Most of the guys leaving have already entered the portal. You could see some late additions, but guys recruiting, there's look at some of the top recruits. One of the top 5 recruits, at least by the metric I'm looking at, only committed a few hours ago. So I went through them using evanmia.com, their rankings, ranking every player that they have in the transfer portal. It's based off the verbal commits portal, but just looking at the top 5 based on those national rankings of players that are coming to the Mountain West, or at least committed to a Mountain West school. Number 1, do you think you can guess the number 1, or at least which team has the number 1 recruit?
Which team has the number 1 recruit?
Yeah, I'll give you team or player if you can name either.
I'll say Boise State.
Boise State, they do have the top recruit. Dylan Andrews.
Georgetown Center?
No, it's not him.
Oh.
It's Dylan Andrews, the UCLA guard.
Oh, I forgot about him.
He's ranked 86th in the transfer portal. The only top 100 transfer recruit of any team in the Mountain West. But yeah, rated as a 4. Of course, all these are rated as 4-star transfers, but he's the highest coming to the Mountain West. Number 2, I don't know if you'd guess number 2. You know his name.
I know his name?
Yes. You know who this player is.
Elijah Price?
Elijah Price. It came as a surprise to me, too. Ranked 148th in the transfer portal. I guess that promising freshman tag. 6'9" forward. Certainly a lot of potential there. So, yeah, ranked 148th going to Nevada. And then number 3, you've got Sean Newman Jr., ranked 3rd in the country in assists last year. He's ranked 192nd in the transfers. He's going to San Diego State. And then number 4, that's where Gary Clark comes in. The 4th highest transfer so far for Mountain West. He's 225th nationally in the transfer portal. And then I mentioned a guy having committed only hours ago. That's San Jose State. Their very first transfer portal commitment is Colby Garland, the guard out of Longwood. He's ranked 234th, so not too far behind Gary Clark. So the Spartans landing their first transfer portal recruit, which only leaves Fresno State as the only team to not have any commitments out of the transfer portal so far.
Wow. Yeah, interesting. So the men's basketball portal is open through next Wednesday?
I think it's the 22nd, and I may now be confusing them with, because the football portal I think goes to the 25th. And now I'm not sure if it's the 22nd or the 23rd for the basketball portal.
We'll try to figure that out here, but I know it's sometime next week. It's for the men's basketball transfer portal, and then for football, it opened today, but it's only open for like 10 days, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, something like that. Basically a week, which, thank heavens, because we can't have another month-long portal window. The spring window shouldn't even be a thing at all, but since it is, we got to just hope it's as short as possible.
Yes. So, still waiting to see what happens there. It's Tuesday, April 22nd, is when the portal closes for basketball, and it's a 10-day window for football.
So is it end of day, the 22nd, or when the 22nd starts, is that the end?
That's a good question. I think
I'm going to guess end of day, the 22nd.
I'm going to guess end of day is my interpretation from what I understand. So yeah, it's a 30-day window for in the spring for college basketball. But hey, a lot more to discuss here on the Full Court Press. Still time for you to weigh in as well. After a little bit from Dan Patrick, some news at the top of the hour as well. But if you want to chime in, we'll always love to hear from you at 435-339-0321 on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line. And before long, we'll be right back here on the Full Court Press.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. College football is evolving right before our very eyes, with NIL deals soaring into the millions, players entering free agency through the transfer portal, and the emergence of front office roles like general managers. The sport is becoming a professional league more than ever. There's been talk of forming one massive super conference, a seismic shift that would centralize the sport's biggest brands into a single NFL-style division. Recently, Colorado head coach Deion Sanders floated another pro-style concept, scrimmaging other teams in the spring rather than hosting traditional inter-squad games. Will this give Colorado an edge? That remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, college football is no longer just about tradition. With billions of dollars pouring into the sport, innovation is inevitable. The game is morphing into something bigger, something more structured, and something that, whether purists like it or not, looks a whole lot like the NFL. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.